start the recording. Yeah, well, up right at the moment, we're going to start talking about changing the time. It seems like we're excluding too many people from because of the time.
I
Anyway,
see.
yeah.
Yeah, I had to figure out it's been so long I had to figure out the time zone thing again
Yeah,
since I'm
well,
in
yeah, they changed the time. See, we went out of daylight saving, and you guys went into daylight saving, and it changed things by 2 hours. So I think we're just too early or too late or something. We'll have to go and look at all of that. Yeah, and the other thing
yeah,
we're looking at is making another one private, not publishing it.
cool.
Yeah. So how have you been?
I've been struggling the past couple of months, but overall good. I was thinking about you and your daughters. How are your daughters and their kids?
Yeah, well, they're the same. Well,
Yeah,
nobody's the same, of course, but things haven't changed much there.
yeah. I yeah, you know, I had the awakening with you guys like I'd say like a little over a year ago. And it was because of these meetings and because of Todd. I, you know, it felt like it was because of that
I thought it was a bum on a sidewalk.
that's what I was gonna say too. You posted something on Substack where the person was just noticing first the person was noticing what was just in the moment and present to everything that they were observing. And I remember that I still have it written down where it was the cold butt on the pavement and the sign in the window. And then, yeah.
Hmm.
And so things are like, things since then are much more peaceful and just seeing the stories and noticing that the stories on top of this over and over again. And,
I'm waiting for the big
and,
butt.
yeah, the butt is my son. He's he's dealing with a lot of leg pain and I don't like it. I don't want it. I don't like it. I don't want it.
Hmm.
And I don't want to not want it.
Yep.
And it's
It's a
yeah,
tricky one, isn't it?
it's like a physical excruciating pain for him. And so
And it just
um
hurts, eh? Hurts, hurts,
yeah,
hurts. Yeah.
and it hurts. And so yeah, I just notice how much fear there is and what the story is about that. And the story is, um, what if this is something really serious? What if I'm giving him too much ibuprofen and it really messes up his stomach? Because I've been medicating him daily. Um, and yeah, what if like, he can barely walk. So it's just like, what I want to figure it out. I need to figure it out. I need to fix it. Like I need to know. And I want it to change. I really, really want it to change. And then when it's actually happening, when the pain is like happening, it's just tears, because he's screaming out in pain and I'm there. And even if I don't make the division of I'm the mother comforting him, and even if the stories aren't happening, it's just pain. It's the pain and it's the crying.
Mm. by that you've got that you don't want to be showing him your pain and adding to the situation.
Well, I'm over that. I'm not, no, I don't try to hold it in.
Oh,
I did
good,
the
good.
thought,
Yeah.
yeah, the thought does come like, well, if, now he's going to be afraid to tell me how he really feels because we've already had the discussion of like, Mommy, why are you crying? And I told him, when your leg hurts, my heart hurts. And,
Hmm. Well, that's
so
pretty good.
it
Yeah.
hurts me too. Yeah. So no, I don't, no, that's not it. He sees I don't try to hold it most of the time. I don't try to hold it.
Hmm.
And so yeah, yeah,
So what, it's a tricky one because you recognise so much of what's going on. Do you recognise your relationship to the story? Right? So the stories are basically, I don't want this. I don't want it to be there. I don't want him to be in pain. Right? But at the same time, I presume there's a recognition that this is not under your control. This is what it is, what it is. And you recognize that, but
not really.
you don't allow the ramifications of that to sink in. There's still some lingering belief that it could be different.
Yeah,
Just a tiny little belief sitting in there in a shadow somewhere in a crevice, untouched, is enough to make this to add the suffering to the pain. Can you imagine the possibility that it can all be as it is? You can feel bad, but you can feel okay about feeling bad.
yeah, no, I'm not there.
You can't imagine that?
I can imagine it, but when it comes, I can imagine it, but then when the pain is happening,
Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, we just want the possibility of it to exist. No, we're not worried about whether it actually exists at the moment, just the possibility of it. Until we have that possibility, it's an impossibility.
yeah, it doesn't seem like that those can happen together.
Mm.
If
Yeah,
I'm
they do.
saying
They do
no,
seem conflicting, don't they?
yeah, if I'm saying no, I don't want no. Like at church this morning, he was feeling it, and it was no, no, no,
Yeah.
no. So to be like yes to the no,
Yes. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. The no is going to exist. There's no question about that, and there's nothing wrong with that existing. It is a tiny little crack in the door that we're looking for that says the no can exist and it's okay that it exists. And then all of the suffering component of this just trickles away. It's the no is okay. You're allowed to have the no. It is reasonable that you have the no, but you don't need the suffering. Another way to look at it is that there's grief here, and that grief is the stories that are attached to the sadness, and the sadness is the no. The grief is not accepting the no. The grief is the story that it should be different.
Yeah, grief is the story that I want it to be different.
Yeah.
And I see it's also the story of I can maybe make it different, maybe
Yes.
if I just figure it out.
Yes. Well, and that comes back to us, and oh God, this is so home for me. It comes back to this delusion that if you want it enough, it will change. This is the delusion of agency.
Yes, if I could just figure it out, if I could just figure it out.
Yes.
My mind can figure it out. It can because
And
yeah,
it's not even
it can.
it kind of overlaps your role as mother, but not it's not entirely there. There's just maybe a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm just suggesting that maybe there's an element that is it's your job, but no, it's not. It's the fact that you're just a big-hearted person who wants the best for everybody around you. It's just perfectly reasonable that you don't want.
No, it's just him. It's just him.
Yeah. Okay, so it's much more because he's so close to you, because you love him
Yeah,
so much.
anyone else, yeah. Any other situation, any other person, it's like that sucks, but that's how it is. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can, you know,
yeah,
but with him, it's like my baby.
yeah. It seems a little twisted and sad to say that this is showing you the lack of separation. This is showing you the oneness of your experience. That's a good thing, but it almost seems wrong to take a good thing out of something so painful. It's also good in that it's showing you some remaining identification that you've got.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I see that.
And when you're
And
there and you're crying, if you notice the stupid words, if you notice the flavour of your tears, the flavour of your crying, if it were just pure sadness that was behind those tears, there would be a degree of sweetness in them. But when it is an expression of your suffering, they're bitter.
it's like his pain is my pain and pain is part of it.
Yes.
I mean, he is me. So
Yeah,
there's pain.
absolutely. And part of it is the impossibility or a seeming impossibility of you being able to um, get him to relate to that pain in a way that he's not suffering. It's possible in some esoteric way, but in practice, he's just not. You're just not able to communicate something like that to him, and partly that is because you're not doing it yourself, and it would be a wordless communication where you show him not by any intent, not by any outward expression, but by the way you feel about what's going on. You can show him that it's okay for the sadness and that the suffering is not necessary. And he then gets the possibility that there can be pain without the anguish, that the pain can be okay, which sounds crazy.
I'm having a call right now. Can I talk to you after? Okay. Oh, yeah, the being the model for him, you were saying, being kind of the model.
Yeah.
What?
So
Yeah.
it's something I learned at doing Vipassana meditation way before I woke up, that if we don't attempt to escape the pain, it it morphs into something. It's still pain, but it morphs into something that all I can say is it's okay. It's a weird one,
Mm-hmm.
but it comes with the not fighting it, the not wanting it to be different, the acceptance of it.
Yes, I've done Vipassana.
Mm,
I've been at many Vipassana retreats.
yep. So have you discovered that one when your legs start hurting after 50 minutes of sitting still?
Yes, of course. I've been there.
Mm.
Hmm.
So although this is pain that comes from somewhere else, the same attitude of acceptance can allow it to morph into something that isn't difficult to live with. But how how do you transmit that to your son? It's not possible to tell him. You can tell him about it, but you can't. Only by experiencing that yourself will the possibility for him become real.
Hmm.
But of course, I don't want to excite agency here. The idea of doing, that's where the grief comes in all along. The idea that it can be different, that it should be different.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't like do that to like produce some kind of outcome. Because I've have, I'm quiet and I put my hand on his legs and I don't even say anything sometimes. We just
Yeah,
it's he's screaming and me just sitting with him and like putting my hands on his legs. And then
yeah.
also the tears come.
I mean, they're even close to the surface when you just think about it, aren't they?
Right now, you mean in this moment?
Yeah.
Not right now in this moment. Mm.
is there, when you put your hand on him, when you're sitting there and you've got your hand on him, is there is there enough space for him in his pain that if you were to say put one hand on his leg where it's hurting and another hand on his chest and ask him to feel the pressure of or the sensations involved, but it would be pressure of the hand on his chest, would he be able to do that? Or is he so lost in the pain of his leg that he can't even think about that?
He can't think about that. He's like gripping and holding his breath, or just like it's like maybe yeah, it's just a screaming. It's a screaming in agony.
Mm,
It's like
yeah,
yeah, there's only suffering. There's nothing else for him. It's just agony.
yep, yep. So there's no possibility of you doing anything other than
Well,
feeling
I
what
guess
you're
that's,
feeling.
it is gradual. It comes on slowly. So it's like starts to get sore. So maybe in those moments where it's like first starting to feel uncomfortable, because it
Yep,
is
yep.
gradual. Yeah.
Okay, well that's a good one. If you can get it early enough that he can put his focus on your hand on his chest, for example. I don't know why I say his chest, but it seems appropriate. And if he can do that, if he can for even for a moment put his hand on his chest, then you can point out to him that when he's focused on the sensation of your hand on his chest, that the pain in his leg does not exist.
Hmm.
If you can get that through to him, then you open up a possibility for him that he starts to recognize that if he can put his focus somewhere else, the pain's not there. That pain is only there when he's focused on that pain, and that although that seems inevitable, especially when it gets bad, the way to make that possible for him is to get it before it gets that bad. So it's the fact that it comes on a little slowly is a great opportunity to do something like that.
Yeah. I mean, he knows the concept of the pain is not there when he's playing his games.
Mm,
It's
mm,
definitely like he's like, this is the fix, mom. Like I'm playing my games and it doesn't hurt. But then when it's time to turn off the game,
yeah, yeah, back it
all of his
comes.
attention is, yeah,
Mm,
back in his body.
yeah.
And of course, like I have a limit on the screen time at 6 o'clock, but then it's like, well, do I just let him? Maybe I should just let him play the game. This seems better.
Well, that's a tricky one too, isn't it? I mean, that does he then use the pain as a way of making it okay to play the game beyond the
Right,
the,
right.
the normal limits? But
As well
yeah,
as the
that's a
fact that
balance.
he's definitely putting his attention outward instead of having the skill of coming inward, you know.
Mm,
Yeah, it really fucking sucks really bad.
yeah. What occurs to me is the possibility. I mean, the 6 o'clock limit, I guess, under normal circumstances, would be certainly be an appropriate thing. But under these circumstances, I wonder if just comes to me the possibility that you could say, okay, you can play your game until you are no longer focused on the pain, and then we'll stop the game. And when the pain comes back, you can well don't you don't tell him this, but you can make it that when the pain comes back, he can play the game again until his focus is off the pain, and then stop the game again. So we just stop, start, stop, start, stop, start each time, regulating the pain. And so you can make that whole thing a game. which is again, it's teaching him at an experiential level that the pain only exists when he focuses on it. And then what we do is we go, how how do you bring your focus away from it without the game?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this is a great opportunity for him and for you to experience a possibility that will be there with him for the rest of his life. That is such a big thing. How many kids of his age get the opportunity to do something like that?
And that is focusing your attention, do you mean?
Recognizing the difference between pain and suffering. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
the focusing attention is just the technique, just the tool to bring about that recognition.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Vince.
Yeah. So a change in me has happened. I now feel a little excited about a possibility and I'm less focused on just the suffering part of the pain. So I experienced it a little too. I experienced that, oh, I just wanted it to be different for you. I want it to be different for him. And that's okay. It's a story with suffering attached, but recognizing it, we start looking for opportunities. We start looking for ways around and through it into something else. Just love so much your big heartedness. And yet that's part of the reason why that suffering exists. We have all these contradictory things in us at the same time, both running. It's crazy, isn't it?
Actually, can you say more about the contradiction?
We part of our conditioning seems to be that it's a binary situation that you can't feel good and bad at the same time. You feel either good or you feel bad. You feel this or that. It's just part of our conditioning. But the reality that has dawned on me slowly over time is that we frequently have two, I was going to say conflicting, two opposite views. Sometimes they do conflict, but if we recognise that it's possible to feel both one and two at the same time, the moment we recognise that possibility, they stop conflicting. They just exist, not even side by side. They exist one inside the other, or the other inside the one, or whatever. They both happen. They're both there at the same time. They don't have to fight each other. I mean, it's crazy that that your love for him, well, not even just for him, but it is particular for him. But your love is what opens you up to suffering, and you wouldn't want it that you have to stop the love in order to stop the suffering. You wouldn't want it that in order to not suffer, you feel you intensify the separation. That's crazy, isn't it? You wouldn't want that. And so what you're left with is both love and suffering, both at the same time. They don't have to fight each other. And in this case it's easy for them not to fight each other. You wouldn't even want for a second to give up on your love, even if it was a promise that you wouldn't suffer anymore. You're well and truly willing to experience the suffering in order to keep the love. But it exists in all sorts of areas, all over the place. You'll notice now that this has come up and we're talking about it, you'll notice it everywhere. You'll notice that there are frequently two seemingly opposite views that both exist at the same time. And you don't even flip back and forward between one and the other in their existence. That gets a bit weird when we start talking about it like that. But they just it's they're not. If you look at your focus, then and you look at them, then you'll be flipping back and forward between them, one or the other, one or the other, one or the other. But the reality is that they're both there, both in operation at the same time, and you just relax and accept that. Then it opens up lots of possibilities. That's a fight we don't need. I guess that's really all I'm saying. It's much more subtle, but I think you'll see it. You have the ability to do that. I'm just so, right at the moment, I'm just so full of love for your love, even though your love touches me because of all of this pain and suffering that's in your life at the moment. I really appreciate what that pain and suffering has brought to me. And I can't feel bad about it. Yet there is a place where I can tell a story about how bad it is. I can actually experience, when I say that, I can actually experience the badness, but I can experience at the same time the goodness, because they can both live there together. It's bad that it's good and good that it's bad.
Yeah, it's definitely like life is like, oh, okay, you think you're awake? How about some of this?
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking that, the way it is for me, and I imagine it is for others, but I don't know about that. But anyway, yeah, this will always happen for the rest of your life. There'll be, won't necessarily be big things like this, but you'll get shown again and again and again. Oh, yeah, so you think you're awake? Okay, cop this. Yeah, and it's interesting that so much of that'll come from family.
Yeah, like the family thing, like that saying is, you think you're awake, go spend the week with your family or something. It's like, I'm
Yeah,
like, that's like not a big deal at all to me. But when it comes to my baby, that's a
yeah,
whole another conditioning and not even a conditioning, but like mother,
yep,
like
yep.
evolutionary, yeah, like this is what this is what it's like to be this human mother,
Mm,
even if there aren't any stories, still, this is what it's like.
yep. And if I said to you, I mean, my kids are in their fifties. When he's in his fifties, will he still be your baby? And of course you say yes. Yeah. But interestingly, I speak to a lot of people, and at some point, when the parent gets to a certain age, especially if dementia turns up, that the roles switch and the child becomes the parent and the parent becomes the child. That's really, yeah. And I wonder if that's a progression that kind of happens a little bit as the kids get older. They tend to see the parents in a much more human way. The roles change a little bit. Yeah. And I don't know. For me, I kind of imagine that it might have even been a mistake, but I wasn't going to bring my kids up the way my parents brought me up. So I treated them more human, and maybe I overdid it. So I tended to be more friends with my kids than a parent to my kids. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So the roles we adopt are interesting. Yeah. Mm.
How are you, Paul?
I'm fine, thank you. Sorry to hear of your troubles. I
Thanks.
came in a little late. What's the diagnosis with his leg?
There is no diagnosis. We've seen several doctors. There are no answers right now. Um, we've seen a rheumatologist. It's basically like serious thigh pains, which I thought was growing pains, which is pretty common in children. But we've seen a podiatrist, orthopedic doctor, rheumatologist. We've done MRIs and X-rays and no answers right now. But now we're seeing a chiropractor, and he wants to see an MRI of his lower back to see if maybe there's something connected from the low back that's connected in the nerves somehow to his
The
legs.
MRI showed nothing.
The MRI of the legs showed
No. Was there an MRI of the low back?
no, there was an MRI of the legs. I guess specifically the rheumatologist wanted the MRI of the legs because that's where the pain is. And I guess the
Has he been
rheumatologist
injured
is,
lately?
no, he hasn't. Mm-mm. And he's not like
Nothing?
super active, like he's not in sports. So it's nothing,
Does the pain start in his buttock or his thigh?
it's all in his thigh. And then it'll be one leg for a couple weeks and then it'll jump to the other. Sometimes it'll be both. But, and then, so yeah, I thought it was growing pains at first because it was mostly at night. He'd wake up in the morning and be just fine. But now lately it's like when he wakes up too, and like basically all day he like can hardly walk.
Did they put him on ibuprofen?
So that's the only answer. That's the only way to relieve the pain is
Did they
ibuprofen.
did they put him on that, or that's
No,
just
I
what you're
give him the
giving?
over-the-counter one.
Did they give him any anti-inflammatories?
No, no. But they
You
did
might
the MRI did show inflammation of some inflammation of the ligaments and tendons.
you might switch him
Um,
over to Aleve, which is more of an anti-inflammatory, which will take down inflammation, which is a direct cause of pain. First of all, I'd be careful about
yeah,
ibuprofen for too long. It blows your liver out. The other
yeah,
thing I
that's the
would do
thing
is
that worries me, of course.
get an infrared light. The technology has been proven and use that on his hips. The fact that it
Okay.
switches back and forth is kind of a mystery. I would have gone with a low back disc protruding or something like that. But if he hasn't been injured, it's unlikely it's that. So, uh, other than that, I can't really tell you anything non-dual
What
with.
kind of infrared light?
You can get them on Amazon. Like I used one from my back. It's just got a little timer.
Hmm.
It comes on. It
Okay.
has infrared light, which is a deep penetrating, and it relieves inflammation. It's more of a natural way of reducing inflammation, which is what causes pain.
Yeah,
Um,
I have noticed that the ibuprofen works better than the Tylenol, but I don't know what is Aleve. Oh, it's a different type of
yeah, a lot of times they give it
NSAID
for
or
ALEVE. It's good fever reducer, but it's an anti-inflammatory, which takes down inflammation, which ibuprofen is just more of a pain reliever. But the pain is because of the inflammation, especially if the MRI or the X-rays have already showed inflammation. You need to get that down. I'm surprised they
mm.
didn't give him a prescription anti-inflammatory, which would probably help a lot. Um,
Yeah,
other
you know,
than that,
they did say that something because they did all the blood work and everything too, and they did say something came up abnormally in his poop, like a fecal, they tested his poop. So now we're going to the GI doctor who wants to retest his poop because it might be something connected to his stomach that's causing inflammation in his legs.
have
That's
they ordered
also,
the MRI of the back yet? The lower back?
we're waiting, you know, with the insurance, we have to like be seeing the chiropractor for at least 6 weeks before we pass for the
The
insurance to cover
insurance
that.
wants you to see the insurance wants you to see a chiropractor for 6 weeks before getting an MRI.
Well, the chiropractor is the one who's ordering it, so we have to be under his care for at least 6 weeks in order for the MRI to get approved to be paid for by the insurance. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Probably disagree with that, but I'm not a doctor, but well, sounds like you're doing everything right. Um, I can't, from a non-dual perspective, I can't tell you anything. You're going through a hard time, and my sympathies for you. But yeah, and if Vince is right, it'll make you look at things you wouldn't normally look at. But other than that, I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Old is your son?
He's 9.
9. Because this sounds, I mean, this just, when I was in college, I had a 3-month period of exactly what you're describing. And it would just come out of nowhere and I wouldn't be able to walk. And I would just lay down and just kind of weep for hours in my thighs. And I went to all the doctors. They said absolutely nothing that made any sense whatsoever, prescribed nothing. And it just went away. It lasted 3 to 6 months and it was just gone. But it was excruciating. And it's very similar to I mean, the symptoms are exactly what you're describing. But anyway,
It has gone for several months at a time. Just goes
yeah.
and then it
Hmm.
comes back. Yeah.
Interesting. Sorry for your suffering.
Thank you. My Vince, my husband, um, is back in the church now, so we go to church now. We actually got married in the church. The first time we got married 10 years ago, we were married just, by the city civilly. And my husband has found purpose in being a part of the Catholic Church. So we got married in the Catholic Church. And so that's another thing I haven't talked to you in a while that's been interesting to be a part of because you know, I was like praying and I was like praying the rosary because I thought like, if any mother knows about their son's suffering, it's Mary. And Mary is, when you play the rosary, it's basically to pray with the Virgin Mary. So, and I still kind of, um, it's interesting to see my husband on this spiritual path now, but through the church. And for him to ask me about what it's like. The other night, he asked me, like, what's this like for you now that we're like, how does it feel? Like, do you feel closer to God? And it was the first time that I shared with him when I had that glimpse. And I was like, I was explaining he's always kind of been critical of me, talking about non-duality and kind of being on the calls, but not to the point where he's, telling me not to do it, but like it's funny to have shared that with him and like told him because when it was happening, of course, like I didn't share it. It was just like that. It was just it was so um, it was just so matter of fact, like it was such a like I shared with him that I felt like what Jesus talks about when he says, love thy neighbor and like when we would get into like a fight, when I had the glimpse, I had nothing but compassion for my husband. There was nothing to defend, and it was just such a like when he would be upset, and what I would normally do would be like, you know, try to stick up for myself or say something like from this whatever place it was. But then when I was in the glimpse, I was like, he would say something that would normally trigger me so bad, and I would be like, I'd look at him with like so much love and be like, "Are you okay?" Like I was genuinely like could see that he was being that way because he was hurting. So
Yeah.
I shared that experience with him how like that was like I felt so connected to God. That was like, the real felt sense connection. Like now I understood. Like God was moving me. There was no like decision making. Like everything was just like so flowy. And so when we go to church, it's so like, especially Catholic church, it's like first you do this prayer, then you sing this hymn, and then you do this part, and then you do you receive the communion, and then we read this part of the Bible, and then the priest like says something about that part of the Bible. But like when the priest talks, it's like I don't feel like you know what I mean? It's just like I don't know, it's just very interesting to see that there's like this felt sense of like God, and then there's like this, you know, you're supposed to act like this because God says so, right?
Yeah. So the trick with all of the religious stuff is that somehow or other the intent has been changed to focus on something separate from you. Some like God is out there wanting, directing, or whatever. When what you've experienced, and it seems blasphemous, if you said it in church, they would probably call it blasphemy. But what you have experienced is you as God. This has been part of your actual experience. You may not have described it like that, but it's not even God in you. That's still separate, right? It's you as God, just as a description of you getting in touch with let's call it the God essence, if you like. That is so. All of these rituals, and they are rituals, and that's the third feta, right? Those rituals, rites and rituals. The intent of those is to help you get in touch with that feeling that you know very well. And so, while ever you focus outside of yourself on the words or the church or the priest or the idea of God somewhere different to where you are, you're lost when you get in touch with that. So let's say God is love. It's not meaning to bring him down to just love, because love is everything. Love is God. So something that this is the way I see it anyway. So it's like what Paul says, when people get into the non-duality thing and they start seeing themselves as consciousness or awareness, that's a great stepping stone. And in a sense, when people see God as out there and they can feel God because of that, that's a great stepping stone. But where it leads to is recognizing that you and everything is God. There is no separation. I know it sounds arrogant, it sounds blasphemous from a religious point of view, but that's only because, well, let's not get into the power politics of religion. Mm.
Yeah, and it's like the new Pope, and he's like, the Pope, honey, there's a new Pope. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, tell me more about like what does that mean? Like like how does that make people feel closer to God? Like how does he at the top of this huge thing? Like what's special about him? Like, and I'm genuinely not like I just genuinely like ask like from a place of like
Yeah, I
curiosity
get
and like
that. Yeah, yeah,
I'm not like or I'm just like, oh, tell me why. Like, and it's good because since he's into it, like he wants to explain it and so it helps him to,
Yeah.
he wants to, find
Well,
out too.
don't ask your husband this, but I ask you, what's the difference between the Pope's popularity and Mick Jagger's popularity?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, like, what is his role? Like, I guess he's the one who really, he makes, like, he's like the president of the church. Like, he makes the choices and, he's able to, yeah, make choices apparently for,
Well, the possible difference is that when people think of the Pope, it might move their focus in the direction of that that thing. But maybe it doesn't. Maybe they just worship him because of him rather than what he represents. But who knows? I mean, it's going to be different for everybody, I guess. Yeah. Traffic, are things still good for you?
Hello. I don't know about good or bad, but yeah, things are going. I'm fine. Thank you. Yeah. One thing that I noticed during past couple of days or maybe weeks is that the mechanical habit of seeking died down significantly. Like, because before I knew there was nothing to, just there was no answer, but still I was going through, like, I think looking, watching, reading. I guess there was something there, and I noticed that it's just like a habit, and it significantly uh, died down. So that's a good change.
Hmm. It's easy to imagine that means something, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I think that kind of led me to kind of got my attention towards that. I think because it started that I was asking myself, why am I still doing these things? Why am I still going through these like meetings or just reading or watching or consuming? And then it kind of expanded toward like, okay, why I'm doing other things like the hobbies or interests or anything like that. And well, obviously, like there is no final answer to it, but where I am is that um, it's because of feeling good. Like I think that's kind of a driver in my experience. I think for many, not even like only human, I think for anything else, drive towards feeling better, feeling good. And I think whether it's like a spirituality or non-spirituality, whether we go to drink something or eat something because there is like a need and we go because there is a thirst, we are hungry, or we are having pain, we want to reduce that, or we are suffering, we want to remove that, or even animals, when you see that like they are uncomfortable in their place, they go just like change that, or they go eat something, or the plants, they grow, they need water, they need like soil, nutrition to just like expand. And I realized like, okay, my search also like for seeking was to just like feeling better.
Excellent.
Even
Yeah.
sometimes just like looking for different stories because some stories feels better. So just like I adopt them, I go toward them. And
So that's a great overlay on what happens. But from what you say, what pricked up my attention was that you were doing these things. Now, were they just words that you used when you described it, or was it just
yeah,
happening? Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm not saying anything like toward I as a like an agency. I think even the body itself has some characteristic that like it likes this flavor over that flavor,
Absolutely.
or like
Preferences
it
exist.
needs
Yeah.
yeah, it needs like nutrition, it needs something that goes do that. And the overlay, I think, is the story that the mind picks and creates. And
Yes.
in those also it looks for a better stories because, for example, like I might still do something, but there is a story that says, oh, you are a better version than before, feel better, or I am accepted. So like I understand this even toward like I think even in the mental concept that like this story that the chatter is still there is like looking for feeling better. Even there is like an overlay to feeling better that is
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
all excited hearing you say those things. It just sounds so good. Yeah.
yeah, and I think for a while I was just like, no, there should be something else. Like, but I really know it's just like feeling better. Like, and it's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong or right with that. And then after that, the next thing that occurred to me, okay, what does constitute feeling good? What does, in which situation, in which condition, in which scenarios there is a feeling better? And where I am right now is just like the moment that you forget about yourself,
Yes.
that you actually forget there is something here, there is a separate person, agent here. Like when you saw a beautiful sunset, or you watch a good movie, or you just like flow, or you lose yourself in doing something, you just forget about yourself. And that feels good.
Yeah. 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 So that forgetting, that the interesting thing is that that feeling good at that level is really just the absence of not feeling good or feeling not good. Yeah.
Yeah, because there is no one to feel good. There is no one. You forget completely about
Yeah.
yourself. You don't feel, you see yourself separate.
Right. So another overlay story might be that when you are lost in the sunset, you are the sunset.
Yep,
You are the
of course.
experiencing of,
Exactly.
so, not even experiencing of, you are the experiencing. Yeah. And
Yeah,
there is no self there in that. That's beautiful. Look, I feel so good about where you are. That's great.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the contrast is just the places that I become more self-conscious. Like it feels bad. Like when I do something that embarrasses me, I've realized, okay, I'm here, I'm separate, I need to defend myself, and that feels very bad in contrast to just like you go somewhere, you have a conversation with someone that you forget about yourself. Like there is no you here, just like the flow and everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is just the contrast that it's actually like interesting that like you don't the content really doesn't matter in meaning that you don't need to go and do something specific as long as there is no, I don't know how to, what
Yeah,
word actually,
absolutely,
resistance.
absolutely. I get that. Yeah. So
It's
the
just
content is irrelevant.
openness.
Yeah. And there's another example of what I was talking about earlier about there's two existing things together, you know. Now that
Mm,
you know what feeling good is, feeling bad is more obvious.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
noticed that
that's
more and
good.
more in everything, like in every experience, in every moment that something happens, just like, okay, what's here that feels like when it feels bad, then I notice, okay, again, I'm separating myself from what's happening and I'm imagining an agency here. And okay, what gives me this clue? And then uh, that's just like becomes like a game.
Yep. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I love it. And now I say to you, the and it's just stupid words I'm about to say, but now this that you've achieved this level of wisdom, it's time to pay it forward.
Yeah.
What did that make you feel?
Makes me feel that I gained something, but when I look, I just lost
Yeah,
many things. I didn't gain anything to share.
yeah,
It feels like, I mean, if I want to just go back and tell myself the word that I use would have been very irritating for myself. Just like trust your experience, relax. There is nothing, there's nowhere else you need to be. I would have just like, what the hell you're talking about? But that's what
yeah,
like I'm not saying anything because I can understand
yeah.
these are
That's
the
right.
words that are very irritating.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you, thank you.
I was gonna say too that what he was just saying about feeling good is like, yeah, noticing that like I don't want to feel bad. Like I don't want to feel worried about him. I don't want to feel this fear. And like you helped me see so much through the stories that I was like, I kind of came because like it's like, well, maybe Vince can help me like not feel so bad. Figure out how to not feel so bad, you know, like um but like I know that it's like I have to feel bad. I have to. It's like when it comes, the sadness and the fear, it's like here it is. And yeah, like it's part of it too. It's all part of it too.
But as humans, a physical organism, inbuilt is a preference for not feeling bad. You know, maybe you can see it as an attraction towards feeling good, but that's probably not quite right. Just for not feeling bad. So homeostasis, we have this inbuilt, I don't know what to call it, attraction to being in balance. And so often we can, if we experience bad, then to simply not experience bad can be called good. When a lot of people, you say, what would be your ideal life? And they would say to be happy. And then when you think about it, if you get into that, you think, well, no, it's not. Being happy is that could get boring, you know. But contentment, peace, equanimity, calm, clarity, those kind of words seem something that we can live in, or is a good basis for where we live. So the fact that there's a preference towards not feeling bad is a body organism process for towards health, towards being healthy. So in a sense, you know, it's like you can equate feeling bad to being unhealthy, and one will lead to the other. Right? Unhealthiness will lead to feeling bad, and bad will lead towards unhealthiness. So it's just a natural organism preference towards that balance point to not feel bad. But it becomes a different thing when we start trying to push away, when a sense of agency turns up and we go, let's control this. That becomes a different thing altogether.
Yeah, the sense of agency that I'm separate from what is happening, from the flow of life, from this event or this experience, and I have to figure it out. And this is the story that come with it, like I needed to do better, or just like why this is happening. And this whole thing that actually makes you separate, makes you an agent, make you that like individual that needs to defend. That's the whole friction that makes it,
Yes,
that makes it
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
suffering, the resistance actually,
Mm.
rather than just like this is the feeling, this is coming, this is, I'm not separate, from this, I'm not, there is no problem, I am one, there is no one or two, there is flow of life that is happening, and
Mm.
that's different experience.
Yep. Yeah, I get that for sure. Yeah. Even the non-dualists have got it wrong when they say there's only one. There's not only one. There's only all, and even all sounds like some existence. But yeah. Yeah. How have you been, Lou? At this level, we're talking about this stuff now.
Yeah, good. Yeah, really good. Last time I was on, I was talking about that rage and anger. Um, there's been a lot of insights, a lot of things come up. There was a particular, I was using the chat bot, and were going for quite a while, and it's just very, very brief realization that the knot that I was facing or had kind of initially inquired about, it wasn't just one belief. There was a number of different things that were holding that together. And I think that's the first time I'd seen it quite clearly, how it's all intertwined and it's not linear or up and down or
Yeah, good one. Yeah.
So that was one thing. And the other one was around making decisions. And I think it just kind of relates to what you just talked about, Shafiq, about the flow. Like quite often I'm going through the day and there's nothing going through my head. And I brought this up before, but it still feels a little like I'm at ease with it, but it still feels like there should be more noise, there should be more activity going on. And then the other thing about the decision is like most times things just happen, just decisions kind of just that there is no decision, just happen. And sometimes there's a bit of surprise that I find I'm doing something that before I would have had to sit down and make a decision on something, and it just happens. And yeah, I had a decision to make, and since then I've been doing more just waiting to just going in and seeing if I do this and then I see what the body does, and it's very clear, and it's just getting more in tune with that. But there's a bit of discernment that the contraction is also based on conditioning as well. So sometimes if there's a contraction, I can then inquire if I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, you are. I get a feeling that what you're experiencing is just the unfamiliarity of new terrain. That
Yeah.
that it's so that idea that there should be more activity going on in your head is like you could almost say there's some degree of grief there, that you're experiencing the missing of the old way of being, where that activity gave you a sense of existence, gave you, you could call it purpose or meaning or all sorts of things. It also gave you a sense of agency. So all of those things now not being there, sure, there's a sense of something's missing. But that'll become normal. That will become normal. I mean, I could say, you asked me what were my thoughts yesterday, and I could probably come up with 3 thoughts for the whole day, because it just, I mean, they're there, they go on, but I don't take any notice of them, so I couldn't say what they were. So it's just a case of getting familiar with that absence of activity as well, and that's once you stop, there's a kind of a pulling back into that. Once that releases, and you're just floating, you're just in that wonderful space where and things don't get laid down in memory because they're all just happening. You know, if you care to pay attention, so to speak, not that you can, but if attention happens, you just realise that everything's going the way it needs to go, or the way it is going. It just is the way it is. So there's no effort there. So there's not really anything missing. There is just that sense of something missing because of the way it was. And pretty quickly you'll forget about the way it was and it won't be missing anymore.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, it's a good, yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that. But yeah, there has been some grief about almost like reminiscing, which hasn't happened for quite a while, but there's little thoughts come in about how things were or hopes that I'd had, and but they're taken with a pinch of salt now.
Yeah,
But
great. Yeah. Can you see that reminiscing stuff when thoughts were there about the past, what happens is you bring the past into the present, and so it's like you keep the old you alive that way. And what happens now when that's not occurring is that, well, there's no you there at all. It's just it's just this constant happening, this constant evolution of happenings, and the organism is that, just the experience of that. It's not even in that; it is the experience of that
yeah,
that is there. Yeah. So it is, and there can be grief because you're leaving behind the way you used to be. You're losing that. That
yeah,
doesn't
it doesn't
exist
last very
anymore.
long. Yeah, it comes with quite a pang, but it doesn't stay very long, because when I look at it just doesn't make any sense. Like it
Mm,
just
exactly.
but
It doesn't. Yeah.
then you were talking the other day, I was listening to a meeting where you were talking about oh gosh, I can't remember, but there was just such a sense of freedom. And I heard this many times before, but you were talking about how, by the time the brain has caught up with actually what's happening and put some meaning on it, it's gone. And I've seen that a few times, but I just felt this sense of freedom that, and I like what you just said about is oneness, it's allness, because the freedom is when you can embrace that both and the both sides, which I keep hearing, but I keep hearing differently. And I think that's what happened when the reminiscing happened. I realized that there was another part of that. Instead of fully diving into that, there was something that knew there was another piece of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You're very much in a new land exploring.
Mm.
It seems, and there's great discoveries to happen. It's really exciting. Yeah.
I was away at the week. I found, again, I didn't plan this, but I just found, because my kids weren't here for the weekend, I just took myself off to the forest for 2 days because I just could, and the weather was good. And what I noticed is that even though I was safe and, there was other people around, but there was a sense, I could feel my body slightly tense. And there was, even though there was nature all around, there was just a slight, I just noticed there was a slight bracing, um, out of comfort zone. I mean, I've camped plenty of times, but I'd never really got in touch with what happens when I go away, or yeah, because everything's new and unknown, but it was very
Mm.
subtle. It was
Yep,
just
yep,
quite,
yep. Yeah.
yeah.
And that could be the story overlaying that gives it meaning. So it could be fear or it could be excitement. It's same sensation. It's interesting how you said you felt safe because there were other people around. Well, that doesn't actually give you any actual safety, but yet that story is what gives you that feeling of, oh, I don't have to worry because there are other people around. Yeah.
I don't even know if it was either of those. I think it was something to do with so it kept popping in that I should be doing something else. I should be doing something more productive.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it was, yeah. It was just
Justify your
interesting.
existence. Sorry.
Yeah. I just noticed it kept, there was contractions. If I just relaxed, I could just be, but it kept wanting to pop out and get busy, be busy, be productive.
Do you get the
Yeah.
the the value of just noticing, and that what you noticed takes on a different meaning because of where you're noticing it from? This is very subtle stuff again, but yeah. So I presume that when you noticed that you had this, let's call it a desire to be productive, to be busy and doing something, that you also had the realization that that was unnecessary. That was just old world stuff coming in.
Yeah.
But did you get the appreciation for the fact that noticing happened?
Only afterwards. Only
Right,
afterwards.
right,
Moment.
yeah. Because it's pretty busy space, all that stuff going on. There's a lot there. Yeah. But that
Yeah.
afterwards will become closer sooner afterwards, and then it will start happening as it happens, and then the whole thing will just be different. So there's kind of like we can call it a progression, if you like, of how that kind of stuff occurs to us.
Get that. Get that. It does get closer. Yeah. So to speak.
Yeah. You'll even reach a point where you'll notice that you're going to do it, and that noticing will abort the process. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a bit of that. There's a tightness that occurs, and the body kind of lurches forward to go and pick up the phone or get busy
Yeah.
And then you just realize there's no urgency.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like the brain just takes over and like gotta do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we're brainwashed, that's conditioned. We're habitual. We do, and really what's happening is those habits are changing, the old pathways in the brain are atrophying because they're not used as much, and new different ways of looking at things pops up. Yeah. So one thing that comes to mind that happens here is that regardless of the fact that the furniture you're sitting on is manufactured in some factory somewhere and it's in a house and it's all built, that's still nature. It's easier to see the beauty in the tree than it is to see the beauty in the lounge that you're sitting on. But that's just as magnificent as the tree. The amazing colours on the wall behind you are just out of this world. The shades of it's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. contrast from this and that is just wonderful, wonderful stuff.
Yeah, lots changing, lots going on.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm just going to mention this before we finish so that people who are watching the video will get a heads up as well. And that is that I'm going to ask everybody about the timing of the groups. Now, I'm not going to ask if the times are suitable. I'm going to ask what would be a better time. So even those people who will say it's okay, I can come, I want them to think of what would be a more suitable time. And I'm thinking that I'll ask everybody to respond somewhere by giving me their time zone and what meeting and what would be a more preferable time for that meeting. I think I've because of the time zone thing and daylight saving, I think we've excluded a lot of people from coming to these meetings. So I'm just looking to adjust that So but when I send it out, I'll ask that question. But for those who watch the video, it'll be a heads up about that. But otherwise, I'm going to go and have breakfast. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.